Hello, everybody. I would like to welcome you to a short presentation for the virtual study abroad fair for the fall of 2021 in regards to a program really that is scheduled to be going in May of 2022. I am Dr. Jerry G. DeMaria, and I have led over the last 10 years or so a program to England called the British Intercultural Business Communication Abroad experience. And my faculty co-lead is Dr. Shelley Bartosik, also here from the College of Business Administration. So hopefully you're able to see our contact information there on the screen. Our emails are there, etc. So, if you have questions, either as you're watching this today or, maybe you go back, talk with your parents or you think about it, talk with your roommates, whatever, and you have some questions, feel free to reach out to either Dr. Bartosik or I, Shelley or Jerry, and we would be happy to kind of walk you through anything that we can help out with, really. So with that, let's kind of jump right in. A little bit of background on this. Like I said, this is a program that I've led for about 10 years or so. And, when we think about England, a lot of times we think about some of these things, the beef eaters, the big bridge, there's the big clock tower in the background, maybe the bridge that the beef eater goes over. And we will spend some time in this program looking at British culture and particularly British business culture. But the reality behind the program, the real impetus behind it, isn't just about England itself. It really is designed to give you as the student the tools and skills necessary to interact with a culture different than your own. Because what we know in the world of business is that that's going to happen, right? You might go out and work in an international company and your office mate might be from Bangladesh. You might work for a company that maybe, is comprised mostly of Americans, but you're dealing with business partners who are in different parts of the world, whether that's Asia or Europe or, South America, Africa, etc. So, these skills are really important. And even if you don't ever really venture much beyond the confines of your hometowns, it's quite likely that you will still interact with people whose cultures are different than your own. Just recently this summer, my family kind of became really good friends with an Amish family here in the local community. And we all grew up in the same area. We all grew up in the Midwest. We all speak English. We have a Christian background, those kinds of things. Our skin colors are pretty much the same, and yet our cultures are widely varied. And so it is, something that even in your hometown, you may interact with individuals different from yourself. We're going to base a lot of this on some theory that was done by a couple of scholars called Mintzberg and Gosling. They developed what they call the learning cycle, which basically says anytime you learn anything, we start kind of up in that top left corner that you see called unconsciously incompetent, right? There's all this stuff that we don't even know that we don't know. Back when you were in math class as a second grader, you didn't even know that you didn't know algebra, right? You didn't even know what that was. One day your teacher said, today we're going to learn algebra. And you were like, oh, what is that, right? Because you were consciously incompetent, right? An experience happened that was kind of jarring, and it moved you to that second box in the bottom left corner. And Mintzberg and Gosling says that's where a lot of things happen, is in that second box, because you have a choice. You can choose to say, I'm not going to engage with this, I'm not going to learn it, it makes me uncomfortable. Or you can push through, do a little bit of work, develop those tools and skills that we're talking about, and eventually become consciously competent. That's really what the impetus behind our course is, right? Is to give you those intercultural skills and tools necessary to successfully navigate the world of intercultural business. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to use, like I said, England as a model, and we're going to start off in a really small town called Cornwall, or a small area. I shouldn't say small town. There's a bunch of small towns, but the area is called Cornwall. And we do that for a couple of reasons. It's pretty small. The people are relatively friendly. The pace of life is a little bit slower, so it's a little bit easier to kind of follow along and get on track with that. We'll have a lot of different experiences down there. For example, we'll go see a place called Lanyon Quant. This is a Metholithic historical site, meaning it dates from well before prehistory. It might look a little bit to you like some of the things that you would see at a place like Stonehenge, with the difference that here, of course, we can get right up close and personal. And that's going to be one of the things I want you to kind of think about in this program is we're going to do a lot of hands-on experiential activities, and we want you to be able to get right up close and personal and actually interact with the people and the places and the things that we're going to be doing in this culture, because one of your assignments will be journaling throughout this program and kind of recording your experiences, and those may be very personal to you, right? So these kind of personal experiences is something that we're going to be aiming for throughout the program. Another experience that you'll have while we're down there in Cornwall is working with some small business owners. They'll have a challenge for you, and you'll get a chance to work with them on hopefully solving that problem and bringing some of your expertise as a business student to their small business, and hopefully help them work through some of those challenges that they might be experiencing. You'll also get a chance to work with some British college students. We'll spend some time at a place called Yeovil College. We'll do some presentations for them. They'll do some presentations for us as well. And it should be a pretty good time while you get a chance to see what's similar and also what's very different about a British educational experience than perhaps what you're used to here in the United States. You'll get a chance to try some different foods. Food is always a huge part of culture and always makes some great journal entries. Also, every night when we come home, we do a debrief at the end of every night. That'll be another one of your assignments. So we got the journal and the debrief. And each night we'll do these debriefs. And we'll talk a little bit about what we experienced. And food tends to be one of those things we hear a lot about in debrief, right? That I tried this and I thought it was going to be kind of like this at home, and it was very different, or maybe it was very similar. So it's kind of a fun thing to do. As part of that food, we'll also explore some local pubs. And if you are thinking that a pub is like a bar, boy, oh boy, there's going to be one of those fun learning experiences for you. Pubs are very different than that. Little kids can be in a pub. You'll see the friendly local dog that you can go in and pet at the pub. It really is a place of local gathering, and we'll spend some time there. All of this, of course, in beautiful Cornwall. At the end of our first week, of course, we will leave beautiful Cornwall and we will be heading off to another area of the UK called Wales, which is actually a separate country. And you're going to get a chance to help us navigate there, right? Navigation, both in terms of cultural navigation and physical navigation, is a really important part of being able to travel successfully. One of the things that you will navigate not only are the roads and the transportation systems, but once we get to Wales, also the language. We tend to think of England as being one of those really cool places I can go and study abroad and I don't have to worry about the language, which is in large measure true. But of course, in Wales, the primary language, particularly in North Wales, where we will be, is Welsh. And it is quite a different language. I promise you we'll get through it and you'll be quite successful. But it is a little bit different and one of those fun things to explore. While we're in Wales, we'll get a chance to see several castles. We'll be going through this one, which is the castle at Conway. Castles are very much a Welsh thing. We tend to think of castles in England. Really, there's not very many at all when we are in England. They tend to be in Wales and in Scotland, and we'll learn a little bit about why that is. There is actually some cultural significance and some right reasons why we see castles in those places, but not in England itself. We'll also spend some time recreating the way the Welsh do. The Welsh spend much less time in typical sports, although rugby is a big thing in Wales, less so football or soccer, and less time kind of in front of their televisions. The Welsh tend to be people who like to get out and walk and hike quite a bit. So while we're in Wales, we'll actually go up a mountain, which leads to some beautiful scenery. But we'll also end up underneath one as well, because in Wales, one of the major industries is mining. And we're going to take a look at the way in which when the mines declined in Wales, some people sort of stepped up to the plate and went through and were able to revitalize some of the geographic features and so on that they had to kind of bring back some opportunities and economic opportunities there in Wales. All of that, of course, in beautiful Wales before we head off to our final destination, which is London, where you're still going to have to navigate in a quite different way. But again, both culturally and physically, you're still going to have to use those skills that you developed as we go to the local markets and interact with the local people. You're still going to be surrounded in history. This is an old country, but it's also quite modern. And so we'll get a chance to go and see a play in the West End, and you guys will pick that. We'll take a look at the role that religion plays in business and culture in a way that maybe it doesn't here, since they have a national religion in the UK. And you'll get a chance to see some of those sites, of course. Finally, you'll wrap all of those learning experiences up into one major paper that we'll talk about throughout the course of the class. And one of the things that I hope you take away is something that is a quote from one of my favorite authors, an author that you will read, a book that he wrote in this course called Notes from a Small Island. The author is an individual by the name of Bill Bryson. He said this. He said, "There's three things you cannot do in life. You can't make a waiter see you until he is ready to see you. You can never win an argument with the phone company, and you can never go home again. Not because it has changed, but because you have." And for many of you who have come away to college, you've recognized that at some point, right? Whether you're a freshman, a sophomore, or junior. At some point you went home and you realized, wow, the people are the same, the places are the same, but somehow it feels a little bit different. Maybe you've realized that's not because it's changed significantly, but because of your experiences you have. So Shelley and I welcome you to join us for England 2020, where hopefully we can open your eyes to a wide variety of new experiences, ones that you wouldn't have had before, so that hopefully you come back with your world forever changed just a little bit. Thanks, and we look forward to joining you and having you join us.